if you were going to pick a white,
Right.
this would be a very complimentary winter white.
For sure, RVG, people have been waiting for it to be released. They go crazy for it. The second it's sold out, everyone's like, when is it coming back? I'm very excited about this. I keep raving to people.
Why do we make new wines?
This is the first time we've ever really done what we call a co-ferment.
Think of a discombobulated GSM. It's basically the same thing, but in a different order.
These wines are amazing at that price. I mean, regardless of the price point, but you can't go out there and find a $40 to $45 wine at this quality.
This one gets a lot of love with the sales team for sure, and it's been getting a lot of awards.
One theme that's been consistent with this wine from day one is it is definitely the darkest colored Cabernet that we produce.
I smell it and I see it, and it's dense, but it's very soft. It's really nice on the palate.
Welcome to the Share the Lohr podcast by J. Lohr Vineyards and Wines, where we take you behind the scenes over a glass of wine. Let's uncork and dive in. J. Lohr Wine Club is in for a treat. So today we're tasting only 5 of what's going to come out in the Winter Wine Club shipment, including 2 brand new SKUs. My name is Josh Baldovino. I am the marketing manager here, joined by Jessica Kollhoff, who is our director of hospitality and direct sales.
Got it.
Got that. We got Jessie Bejar, who is our wine educator, works here in the Paso tasting room and helps with Wine Club. And then we got the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Peck, Vice President of Winemaking.
Keep going, Josh. I love this. I need you to talk to my wife and my kids and give them some new adjectives to describe me with.
But we'll go first. Jessie, I'm going to pass it over to you while I pour everyone. What's the first wine that we're going to drink?
So the first wine we're pouring today is the RVG. It's a white Rhone blend of Roussanne, Viognier, and Grenache Blanc. This year we did a little bit of a twist. Typically it's Roussanne heavy, then Viognier and Grenache Blanc in that order. This year it's a little bit more Grenache Blanc heavy, so I'm excited to try it.
And it's 2023, right?
Yeah, it's 23 vintage.
Yeah, we've been playing around with the blend percentages. I think in 2023 in particular, we just didn't have much Roussanne to go around.
Smells great.
It actually was relatively late ripening in 23, so I think the Roussanne came in, I don't know, even if it was 20 bricks. So the wine itself was, 11 and a half alcohol on the Roussanne's part of it. So, I mean, it kind of sounds, a little bit basic, but part of the reason we kind of leaned into the Grenache Blanc in this particular vintage again was just to give the wine more body, aka a little higher ethanol level. Because even the Roussanne at 11%, it sounds great, but it just didn't have really the palate weight that we've looked for in this wine over the years.
Which you get immediately. I do get the green apple on this.
Yeah.
Which is more of a Grenache Blanc type of.
It's a little bit brighter, in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, the Roussanne kind of gives you more that beeswax, honeycomb kind of character, and I think there's still some of that, but this particular year, it's that brighter green apple character of Grenache Blanc that we love, and just enough Viognier to, kind of create some complexity. Yeah.
I think it's really fun. We haven't had a Grenache Blanc in a while.
100%.
Yeah, 100% Grenache Blanc.
Yeah.
Why is that, Steve?
Winemakers love to have fun, Is that a Cyndi Lauper song or something like that?
Girls just want to have fun.
She was actually singing about winemakers, not just girls, but in a way by skipping Grenache Blanc here and there, we can do things like, create the field blend that we're going to talk about, and create room and bandwidth, for our team and our offerings, and not allow it to get too ridiculous in terms of the number of wines that we're making.
But it's because we're usually we count obviously every year, how many winery exclusive wines do we have? And it oftentimes is about 16 wines, and maybe some vintages it's gone as low as 14. But then, when you have new wines, you want to bring in the mix before you know it. It can get almost too vast. So
the 2 Rhone white wines, the RVG and the Viognier, are kind of what we're we're working with this year. and they're distinctly different, and
Right.
that's part of, again, our mission. The wine style is just to create wines that aren't just slight variations on a theme, but our Viognier with that viscosity and floral
Right,
characters,
right.
really different, and it appeals to a very different cuisine, a very different flavor, wine drinker
Yeah.
flavor preference. Where this RVG, again, it's more sophisticated, more on trading on that kind of palate weight.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. It's very full bodied. I think it has a good weight to it too. It's still
But
creamy.
still crisp,
yeah.
and yeah, it's a good one.
And then for the wine club, we're serving this as your go-to pairing or an occasion where you would pop this one open.
I think occasion can be pretty versatile because, like I just said right now, a lot of times the RVG with all the layers, it can get to be very creamy, which I think is good for like the fall or pairings, but it's also a white wine that has a lot of crispness to it. So I think it can also work well in the summer. It just depends on the vibes.
Fair?
I
All right.
know. I think, yeah, just
I don't know if
on
that
its
answered,
own. Yeah, just this is like the great, get home from work. You want something that's interesting and crisp and refreshing.
Yeah.
But it is, I think I'm jumping on Jesse's comments, is it is almost more of a winter white,
Yeah, for sure.
where
Yeah.
you think of, it's, you have a nice, kind of rainy day here in Paso Robles, and you kind of think red wine, for days like today. But if you were going to pick a white,
Right.
this would be a very complimentary winter
Yeah.
white, and keep something that's a little
Right.
leaner for your
Right.
summer choice.
But yeah, and that's a good point. So because with Club, we do have various whites in our portfolio, but we actually do strategically release this in the winter shipment because it is such a good winter white, with the foods and the weather. Whereas like the Sauvignon Blanc, we'll release that in the spring because it's such a great, spring summer wine. And
Yeah.
so we do, we also think
Yeah.
about what the weather and what people are eating and what the right release cycle is.
I prefer an all-weather wine.
Well, luckily here in the Central Coast, it's oftentimes we can get away with that. So.
Yeah.
All right, so now we know which white wine Steve Peck's gonna pick on a rainy winter day. This is the only white in the flight, by the way, just for today. Let's move on to something new and shiny
Yeah.
here. So
Okay.
I don't think it's the only white in Club though this season. I think we're also doing Pinot Blanc.
oh, go ahead, you can take it.
you.
Yes. Or with customization, it could
Oh,
be
yeah.
more.
Have you seen which white people are leaning to on the customizations at all?
For sure, RVG, people have been waiting for it to be released. They go crazy for it. The second it's sold out, everyone's like, when is it coming back? So, yeah, it's definitely a good one to have. I think it's for sure one of our more popular white wines.
All right, so this is back to the mic. New release. Jesse, what is this one?
So this is our 2023 Raincatcher Field Blend. I'm very excited about this. I keep raving to people.
Well, especially to get to taste it with Steve Peck
Yeah.
and get his insights.
Yeah, I mean, this was a wine that, I kind of was thinking kind of about the ancient ways of making wine. And I don't know, I have a little, my home got a couple of acres out in the Willow Creek region of Paso Robles. And the Willow Creek itself runs through my backyard, and I planted some vines there. It's really too cold there, honestly, to do a good job. But, just kind of thinking about the way, our grandfathers might have gone about, making wine, or even if you think about the Côte Rôtie tradition and how did Viognier end up
Right.
being kind of
True.
co-fermented. So that if you don't know the story, in Côte Rôtie, most of the vineyards are planted to Syrah, but if a tractor runs into a vine and killed it, over time they would replace some of those spots with Viognier. And the simplest answer I've got, which is one I believe, is that they didn't do it. They basically did it to increase the alcohol of the blend because the Syrah wasn't getting ripe enough, and the Viognier would ripen a little sooner, get a little more sugar in the
didn't know
juice. and so on. But it's taken on a life of its own because it also
Yeah.
brings that floral complexity and
Aromatics,
additional length of having white grapes in a red wine, and there have been loads of scientific papers written about this thing called copigmentation, which has to do with how the color molecules stabilize themselves and things like that. So, working with our vineyard manager, Johnny Perini, in the 2023 vintage, we just sat down and made kind of an educated guess. And we asked him to pick, I don't know, can you read what was our number? We picked 17 boxes of Mourvèdre, 9 boxes of Grenache, and 2 boxes of Syrah, which I think works out to about something close to like 60,
Right.
30, 10,
Okay.
maybe slightly less than 10% of the Syrah, the minor bit. And then we destemmed the Syrah and the Mourvèdre, but left the Grenache, what we call whole cluster,
Okay.
meaning it's on the stems, it's not smashed at all. And we put those boxes of Grenache in the tank, and then we dropped the destemmed, more soupy fruit on top of it, and just stood back and waited, 3 weeks or so, and just let it do its thing. And this is the first time we've ever really done what we call a co-ferment, where that blending decision is kind of made in advance, made on picking day, where wines like the RVG or its companion red, the GSM, we produce each of those varietals separately, and then we sit around and very precisely say, we're going to do 52.5% of this and 32.5% of that, and so on. And we assemble those blends in the cellar, just a month or two before bottling. This one,
A little more trust, I guess, with this one.
yeah, and again, I think one of the names we kicked around was had something to do with ancient method or something along those lines.
And
So what
so-
do you think? Yeah.
It's really good. It's
Yeah.
very fruit forward. So would you say, when you say like ancient, are you just saying like it's more traditional?
Yeah, yeah. Meaning, how would the caveman have done it? Essentially. I mean, nowadays,
Pick what's in your field and
yeah, I mean, winemaking. We've got optical sorters. We've got I don't know, precision
Yeah.
agriculture. There's so many so much technology. We've got. They can toast our wine barrel with infrared waves
didn't know
instead of a flame, to create just a exact kind of toasty flavor profile. This is kind of a throwback to kind of an older way of looking at life.
And so the 17 boxes, like the box number on here refers to how many boxes go into each tank.
Yeah, well, no, they all went into one tank.
Oh,
so
then
these are
that's the total amount.
These are picking boxes. They're about 3-foot square picking boxes. They hold not quite 1,000 tons each.
Okay.
So, sorry,
1,000 pounds, a half ton.
thank you.
That's big.
That would be a big box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny holds it with one hand.
Pounds. Yeah, 1,000 pounds. They're about these 3-foot square
Okay.
boxes, and yeah, they all got plopped into a single tank, and we added the yeast and let it go. And one thing we do get is Grenache. One of my favorite descriptors for Grenache might be strawberry or bubble gum,
Yeah.
even.
That's what I'm coming for.
Double bubble gum, and especially when you do it in this way where it's a whole cluster, or
Right.
what we sometimes refer to as carbonic maceration, where the berries kind of fermenting from the inside out because the stem wasn't removed, and it was certainly not crushed. And you end up getting what the French describe as a more amylic character, which is code for for me it's like candied fruit. Like think of like those little Jolly Rancher hard candies. It's just this kind of artificial fruit, really bright, high-toned fruit character from that whole cluster carbonic fermentation that's going on there. So it's got this very sort of serious brooding side from the Mourvèdre.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, more and then some brightness from
Yeah.
Grenache. So it's kind of more that I don't know. I think it's Cornas is kind of known as kind of the Mourvedre dominant one of the areas of.
And then the tan, like from the whole stem fermentation or whole cluster with the stems, it's like the tannin structure is a little bit more grippy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or I said Cornas, but I meant Bandol is kind of that style of a Mourvedre dominant blend. Where our GSM that's in the gesture lineup, it's Grenache dominant, tends to be that bright red fruit cherry. Again, this is more that Bandol side of.
They're very different,
Rhone.
which is cool.
Yeah,
Like,
kind of a mirror image.
Yeah. So for anybody who's Rhone Red fan, like try to do both the GSM and this together. It's like a learning experiment.
I can see that.
Yeah, they're same varietals, but obviously the blend's different in the winemaking methodology. But yeah, they're.
I actually had a pretty hard time this week while all of our members were calling to customize. Everyone was like, so what's your Raincatcher Field blend? What's in that? And I was like, think of a discombobulated GSM. It's basically the same thing, but in a different order. I had no idea how else to describe it.
We kind of just pulled this out of a hat. We had a really inspiring day leading up to this, and just had a really fun conversation with the vineyard manager along with, and we just kind of had a vision for this wine.
Yeah, no, it is.
And I couldn't be happier for it. I mean, if you wanted to use the GSM moniker, you would kind of call it an MGS.
Right.
But it kind of, I don't think we could make this wine where we made the Mourvedre as a separate wine, the Grenache as a separate wine, and the Syrah as a separate wine, and then tried to mix them together, months after harvest. It just wouldn't work out the same way.
So how do you even go about? Did Johnny just say, "Hey, Steve, we should really make this kind of wine this way"? Was that his idea from the get-go, or what was the inception?
I think it was. I think I approached him.
Okay.
But he was really excited about it. This Raincatcher Vineyard, it's the highest rainfall vineyard of any property in the whole Pastoral Bowls appellation. And Johnny has put so much work into it over the years, and they've got bears, and they've got turkeys, and they got pigs,
Wild
and
boar.
they got along with the normal gophers and squirrels and starlings, and they really, and it ripens really late, so that just means the fruit hangs on the vine until November every year.
And more frost.
And
is it more frost prone or no?
It's just, it is very frost prone, so that the stress starts,
there's a lot,
it starts in March or April,
Yeah.
which is frost season, and doesn't end until November. And it was just really an opportunity to sort of showcase, another aspect of this vineyard and what it's capable of offering. So.
Value of these Rhone Reds we produce, which lie pretty much in like the $40 to $45 retail, and then members get obviously their discount. Like these wines are amazing at that price. I mean, regardless of the price point, but you can't go out there and find like a $40 to $45 wine at this quality.
Yeah,
That's
specific.
Yeah, I would
There's our
say
value,
that about all our club offerings, tasting room offerings. They really are exceptional, renditions of our local wines.
Oh, for sure.
They showcase, everybody knows us for Seven Oaks Cabernet and Riverstone Chardonnay, and those wines. They have their own story, and these tasting room offerings are just kind of our passion projects off to the side.
We love them.
So the question I was asking you all before, this is my football party wine
Oh,
with
okay.
pizza.
Yeah, this would be a good
Pizza's a good
pizza,
one.
or like sausage.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like some smoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sausage they brought the day. Wow, what event was it? You know what I'm talking about? They had like mustard in the middle.
Yes, but I don't know what kind of sausage, but that would be good. Yeah, or like smoked duck or something if you want to get fancy.
Yeah, well, on the unfancy side, my stepdaughter has discovered the Olive Garden, and they have a soup there called Soupa Toscana that has a kind of a fennel sausage in it, and it is so addictive. And,
So bring this to the Olive
anyway,
Garden.
so well, there's that, or just roast up some some fennel sausage at home, and you could really have yourself something there.
I don't know if I ever had that on the recipe list, but I think I guess I'll add it now, Steve. All right, let's go into the second new release here. So this is, and I've been to actually all these vineyards. The Stairway Vineyard, that's your Stairmaster there for you. What do we got this one?
So third wine on the list is going to be the 22 vintage Stairway Vineyard Cab, another new release.
Yeah, so this vineyard, it has a lot of steep terrain with slopes of 30% or more, and a section of it is terraced. And in fact, I'm right behind you, Jesse. I can see that the etching and the glass windows that we have here at the tasting room in Paso Robles, and it shows that terrace that was really the sort of the inspiration for the name Stairway Vineyard. And the climate here is incredible. Kind of off topic. The farming team there. If you go to many of our ranches, if you look around long enough, you'll find a planting of corn and watermelon and tomatoes and cantaloupe. Just that the guys will plant and tend to on their breaks and whatnot. And I always make sure to get my vegetables from Stairway. There's just that much more flavor packed in there. It's really a frost-proof vineyard. One of the things about Paso Robles, everybody knows this, we have these, warm, yes, hot summers, but, plenty of mornings, colder than 32, probably, I don't know, on average, but, you probably have at least, 20, maybe even 30 mornings a year below freezing here in Paso Robles.
And the kids still don't want to wear jackets.
Oh yeah, and you still can't get your kid to wear your fifth grader to wear a jacket to school. But yeah, this neighborhood, you can maybe have a lemon tree, which will it'll get through that. And most of Paso Robles, that's not possible at all, and it kind of has to do with this temperate zone, just being a little closer to the coast, where the ocean kind of acts as that anchor that it doesn't allow the air to get quite past freezing. So very special place. It's a very late ripening site for Cabernet Sauvignon. Most of the vineyards up and down the street are planted exclusively to Rhone varieties. Historically Zinfandel, but there's, that's a tough way to make a living these days. A lot of the old Zinfandel vineyards have been replanted to Rhone varieties. Again, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, even Carignan, and anyway, a few other varieties, the white varieties. Not a lot of Cabernet, some, but this is a J. Lohr vineyard. This is a Jerry Lohr vineyard, and we do have some Rhone varieties on the property, but consistent with our kind of what we're known for, the Bordeaux varieties. We've got just an amazing group of plantings of Cabernet there.
Well, I'm very glad you bottled this because it is amazing.
It's really good.
The nose too.
The nose on the palate, it's super fruit forward, and I definitely get a little bit of like spice on the back end. I'm not sure if that's from the barrel or just the winemaking process in general, but
yeah, one of the themes about all of our what we call our D2C wines, the wines that are sold exclusively at our wine centers and to our wine club, we really want to showcase the vineyard and the fruit. We tend to use only neutral barrels, or if we are using new oak, we're using maybe 10% French low toasted barrels. That's really just been a theme that we've stuck to really for all of our winery exclusive wines. They don't get as much of an oak signature as you would see in our broadly distributed wines like a Hilltop Cabernet or Seven Oaks Cabernet, or even compare on the white side, even compared to say, a Riverstone Chardonnay and so forth, the white wines that are winery exclusive tend to be, again, a little more. The word is rustic in the wine making business. It sounds, it's not really a very positive term, but it really is allowing that fruit to be more authentically presented and not as massaged with the oak.
I think that's why I like the aromatics and between the field blend and this, you really get like so much.
lot of
Great,
nose,
yeah, and I think I'm getting like a little anise or something too. There's something, but in both those wines, the nose. I love wines where you just keep smelling them, where it's like you're trying to figure out what.
Yeah.
Like there's something else there. There's like another layer, and
It's also just very inviting, like all around.
it's a fan
I
favorite.
think we found our winter red.
Yeah, this is
Maybe
for
not
sure.
our
I think my
Super Bowl
favorite so
wine,
far.
But this is definitely more of a sipper. I think that
Yeah.
field blend, fill my glass.
Yeah.
This one, you
think
know,
about it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just slow and easy sipper. It does have some, really like I don't know, kind of black cherry, almost dried cherry
Yeah,
characters
it's not like a
to
cherry
it.
cola almost
Yeah.
in a way. It's like it's something,
So then this one, that's the football party wine. This is the fireplace wine then, huh?
I think so. Yeah, the Stairway Cab would be more that fireplace wine. I don't know if we're allowed to smoke cigars anymore. But I'm not really a big cigar person. But if you think of that,
Right,
kind of
right.
that kind of an environment where you're
That vibe.
just got the fireplace going, you got the Scrabble, the Scrabble out on the table, and
Bananagrams. Have you not played Bananagrams?
What are banana?
No,
Is that
I don't
the
even know what you're
It's
talking
the faster version of Scrabble.
oh,
It's
I
much
gotta
fun.
try that.
It's actually really fun. It's so fun where even my 6-year-old will have fun playing with it, and so he can play with us, and you still make words. But yeah, updated
Interesting.
version.
Okay.
And so I probably should know this, but how many Vineyard exclusive cabs do we have now?
2 right now.
2.
Shotwell,
Shotwell.
Stairway,
Yes.
yeah.
And Stairway.
Yeah, we have 3 in our history.
Yeah.
Shotwell, Stairway, and Raincatcher of each
Yeah. We
could
had
do
their
G-
turn at being the
Raincatcher.
feature vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2. We like our 2. It's always fun to have more than one.
Yeah.
Why not that? Okay, so I guess the other sidebar to this is we are clearly in a brand new room, which probably not many people have seen yet.
Right.
And so I know the plan is for this room not only to just have a space to podcast,
Yeah.
but also to run different seminars,
Yeah.
right?
I know. And speaking of like Bordeaux and these cabs, one that we'd like to launch early this year, which obviously we're already in, is that like a Bordeaux focus tasting where it's a little more educational and you can go through our, cuvées and some of our specialty bottlings of Bordeaux and have the educational piece about the history and the relation to the Bordeaux region in France and unique. That's a unique region to where we are, but it's fun to compare and talk about it and learn. And and ultimately some blending seminars in here, and it's a great room for those types of tastings. So.
Yeah, the Bordeaux tradition really is about blending. We have made, the winemaking team have made many trips to France to kind of try to understand the traditions. And in Bordeaux, the tradition really is that you kind of assemble your blend in the winter just immediately after the harvest and get that kind of constructed. So, you would take the Cabernet and the share of Merlot and Petit Verdot and Malbec and kind of get that all massaged and blended together in the cellar, typically before the en primeur tasting that I think is in, I can't remember, it's in April or something like that every year. And then those wines will age for another year and a half before they're bottled. The Rhone tradition is just the opposite. They, everything is
Kept
kind
separate.
of produced separately. They kind of have an art about different size vessels, where in Bordeaux, most everything's, it's either in a concrete tank or it's in what we call a 60-gallon barrel here. But in Rhone, they have the foudres and the puncheons and concrete and different sizes from 60 gallons to 600 gallons to up to even 3,000-gallon ovals and so on, where they age, but each variety gets aged separately. And then I'll just say the family, the one, the owners would, get together, 2-3 months before bottling day, and they decide, okay, for the head cuvee, our most expensive wine, we're gonna, again, do 50% of this and 20% of that, and so on. And they just, it's more an assembly process just leading into bottling. So it's weird where you take different approaches. For the Stairway Cab we're tasting here, our approach is just 100% pure varietal. If we were making that wine for distribution, we might look at, well, maybe we can balance, some of this wine a little bit, again, with a blender with, a little bit of Petit Verdot to bring some additional astringency to the wine or structure, or a little Malbec to make it fruitier, and so on.
And then our cuvées are made more in that traditional.
Yeah, the cuvées are made in that traditional Bordeaux style, where we not only do those blends, but we do them in the first 6 months of the wine's life, and we age the blended wine for another year.
Yeah.
The one that I'm going to pour next is, this one gets a lot of love with the sales team for sure, and it's been getting a lot of awards.
I also think it's just like a Paso, like, I don't know how else to describe it, except for that's what people come in asking for. Like, that's what, I don't want to say that's what we're known for, but it's a big staple in our brand, I think.
All right, so with that then, what are we drinking?
We're drinking the 22 vintage Tower Road Petite Syrah.
Yeah, this one seems to easily become a favorite of
Yeah.
people. Like, they try it and then they.
Yeah, it can steal the show.
I know.
100%.
I've been, if I go to the big New York Expo wine tasting, sometimes I want to keep it like under the table, because it can get to where you've got 5 wines to share, and everybody is rushing the table asking only for that one wine, and it kind of,
Especially if you pair it with chocolate. Everybody like the Petite Syrah chocolate. Just people go crazy.
Yeah. So, another Rhone variety, Petite Syrah, of course, it doesn't get its name because it's a petite or small wine, but rather that the berries themselves on the vine are small. And we know that on red wines, if the berries are big, let's say, you have a lot of juice relative to the amount of skin. The skin is where the color comes from in the red wine. So a big berried, variety tends to make a lighter colored wine. A small berried wine makes a darker colored wine, and that's exactly what we have here with Petite Syrah. Our house style is really about teasing out all that color, but sort of being modest on the side of the tannin and the astringency. So, we always talk about the wines being dark, but soft. And this is the poster child for our approach to winemaking across all our entire portfolio, is that dense but soft characteristic of Tower Road.
Yeah, and this is just more, like more flavor, more dense, more color, more everything. When you make this wine, do you know, like, you get to taste it, and like, oh yeah, this is gonna win a lot of scores, because this, I swear, on the emails from the team, does get awards everywhere.
I think it just got another one. Didn't it win some
Yes,
like reserve something in a Texas competition?
Tell us what it was. Marketing.
I got an email
We have to
from
look
it.
on the website. Actually, you can go jlor.com/accolades or trade.jlor.com as accolades and find it. But
Yeah, I wish I could say, I kind of, could see it coming, but I don't live that way.
Manifesting.
no crystal ball for
I
you
don't
on
think
the
he has time
scores?
either.
I live in fear. Like, Lady Gaga is going to set foot on the stage. What's she doing before she walks out there? She's standing behind there, nervous, afraid, and scared, and like, am I going to blow it? And then, she, or they said that about Barbara Streisand. She was famous for that too, just having insecurities and not really, where everybody else in at the Met or wherever, they know that she's going to kill it, and I suppose that's the case for you, but the way I look at it is I'm nervous as a cat.
And I also and I remember I've heard you before talk a little bit about this. I also think you don't have time to really like when you're, so it's a, say you're harvesting the 22 Petite Syrah and it's, fermenting and you're going through the whole harvest season. Well, as soon as everything's put in barrel, like you guys are busy now going back to the 2020 vintages and getting those bottled and blending. It's like you don't really have time, I think, to think about what is this going to be like. And
We focus what's in front of us. We
Yeah.
try to take good notes, at every step
Yeah.
of the way. But it is true for red wines, at least, you're juggling two vintages,
yeah.
and you've got, we're getting, we just are, putting the 2024 vintage to barrels, or most,
Yeah.
we're kind of finishing up that process now, and meanwhile, we're already bottling the 2023 vintage, and it's come out of barrels, and some of the reds we've already started bottling the 2023 vintage. So
You guys have a hard job, like a really hard job. For anyone who wants to see what Jessica's
it's hard
referring to,
work.
or a little
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
into the winemaking team, 2 years ago,
yeah,
I did a video series with Kristen in the Chardonnay program, and everything that she goes to, from the vineyard to the blending to the oak to everything. And I mean, I asked you earlier on another video they're filming, is how many spreadsheets do you have? And she would just show me
Yeah.
the back end. And there was, even if you told someone exactly how you did it, which you kind of do, and exactly where to plan everything, you still can't replicate it because it's just,
yeah.
it's a crazy process to think about. So
yeah. You can never replicate one vintage to the next. So we just have to be adaptable, be present,
Yeah.
taste, taste. I mean, that's what we're
Yeah.
all about. Between Kristen and myself on the whites, and Brendan myself on the reds, and just
Yeah.
being diligent, not making assumptions. We talked early, at the beginning of the session, we talked about how we adapted the RVG to the vintage. It's really something we're just prepared to do, because we know, what, that doesn't taste like RVG if we just make it the same way we did the year before.
So, big wine, big food, or how are you guys approaching enjoying this wine?
Personally, for me, I definitely think big food. It was a little drier than I mean, not that I expected. Petite Syrah is dry, but yeah, I think for me, something juicy, maybe something steaky, something
But I think you can also do this with pizza or something like,
cash.
yeah.
Or the wine itself is so big it's a meal.
I'm more comfortable talking about winemaking than wine, and certainly wine and food. But I do think Jesse's onto something. Is sometimes it can be like high fat content things. You made a joke earlier about pairing things with chocolate. Well, guess what? Chocolate. It's a kind of a high fat oil food, and again, just
Yeah.
cheeses and lasagna, or you're
Yeah.
thinking about pizza. Yeah, there's cheese on there,
Yeah.
so there's something to take that in. I mean, think of something a little more obscure, but I got invited to a duck dinner, up in Napa with some more winemaker friends next month, and I mean, this would just kill it with duck. I mean, not that not everybody cooks duck at home, but usually a restaurant selection, but
Do the kids go up and play Duck Duck Goose?
The kids
does
probably are
happen.
not
Yeah.
invited. Kids are home.
All right, last wine, shall we?
Let's do it. I'll need one more sip of this.
So we save the best for last. Jerry Lohr's real statement wine, right, Jesse?
Oh yeah, I'd say so. It's his birthday wine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry's
Yeah.
Jerry's a New Year's baby. 88 is his current age as of 2025. I don't know, what has he said about this wine? It's really kind of his statement wine.
Yeah.
He challenged us. The first vintage of J. Lohr's signature Cabernet was the 2013 vintage. I think we didn't release it until 2016 on it, which, if I'm doing the
Yeah,
math right,
his
it was
85th.
it was its 80th
80th,
birthday was the first ever vintage. It was 2013, but I think we held the wine a little longer than we would have normally, in order to celebrate his 80th birthday. And it's really interesting. We if you look at the label, it's very generic. This is J. Lohr Signature Paso Robles Cabernet.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not selling it based on a sub-appellation or the highest elevation vineyard or the, I don't know, French oak barrels or any, vineyard designated wine. It satisfies all those things, but we're
speaks for
really
itself.
just making a statement saying, this is Jerry Lohr approved. And that really is kind of its brand stance.
Well, I think it was on a previous episode that actually I did with you and Brendan. We're talking about the vineyard designates or the AVA specific wines, and sometimes like those are a great expression of that specific region, but that it's sometimes a handcuff for you guys, right?
It can be, particularly if we do a vineyard designated where it's got to be 95%. And yeah, the Cabernet is great from this ranch, but our best Petite Bordeaux is grown on this other ranch on the other side of town, and the best Cabernet Franc is grown on this third ranch, and so on. One theme that's been consistent with this wine from day one is it is definitely the darkest colored Cabernet that we produce. There's a little trick that most winemakers know, which is called saignée, which is French for the word blood or bleeding, where on the day that we pick the grapes, we run them across the destemming machine, and it actually does some sorting and removes any of the underripe green berries or overripe raisiny berries as it removes the stems. But then the grapes are still ice cold, picked at daybreak, and then you'll open the bottom valve of the tank and you'll see this really light colored rosé grape juice come out, and we'll collect that and declassify that into some other tank. But we kind of concentrates the flavor of the wine left in, because again, remember, a lot of the flavor and the tannin and the color is in the skins, and we're kind of removing some of the juice so that you're going to get more flavor for the amount of juice that's left there. We then age 100% new French oak barrels. In 2024, now we're
This is 2021.
we're having the 2021, which was a great vintage. It's some reason all the great vintages are the odd vintages. The 21, the 23, But in 2024, we introduced a new technique where we actually remove the heads from the oak barrels and put the grapes inside the oak barrel. So think of like you take the head out of the barrel, it's standing there kind of like a trash can or something. You fill it up with grapes. But in this vintage, we then put the head back on the barrel, sealed it back up, and laid the barrels over on their side. We did this with over 40 barrels, and we just roll them across the room 3 times a day.
Like someone is actually rolling them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so this is kind of one of the most famous wine consultants of the world, a guy named Michel Rolland. I don't know if he pioneered this, but he definitely popularized it, we'll say. I know about it only because of him.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of spare no expense. We're taking the best grapes off our best ranch, giving it the best treatment in the winery. And it's just all about
labor.
creating that sort of that dense, dark, chocolatey expression, great flavor, but consistent with house style. This is a wine that's still going to be as dense as it is. It's still going to be kind of soft on the palate. It's not going to be a wine where it's dry and astringent.
Okay, wait, and then just to finish off that, because the extreme manualness of this is always so interesting to me, of just how much labor goes into it. You said it gets rolled back 3 times a day. For how long?
We did that for 42 days. Yeah, it was a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Hopefully somebody was playing some good music while they were rolling the barrels.
Yeah, and
It needs to be like a lunch hour workout then, just to get everyone.
we even had one of the guys go out there with a little a cylinder of oxygen and bubble oxygen bubbles down inside to keep the yeast happy. And anyway, it's a pretty
That's cool.
pretty artisan, hands-on process. Just, again, we respect Jerry so much. Like I didn't get a phone call from Jerry saying, I want you to do this and this and this and roll the barrels 3 times a day and do, none of that. We kind of created that. Everyone, I mean, you guys included, we respect Jerry so much. We just kind of, want to do the best for him.
Pushing
And
yeah.
and give him our best thinking and our best efforts, and really this is the wine that kind of speaks to that.
And then Steve, with the 21 vintage, it's unusual that it's 100% cab with the signature. Do you remember why in that vintage we don't have any blenders or?
Right. Well, we had previously grown this at a vineyard called Beck, which is one of the higher elevation vineyards in the Appellation, in the Creston subdistrict. In 2021, we moved the sourcing to this was the first harvest off of our new Stairway vineyard. It's in the Adelaide district, but it's on on PG Canyon Road, which is the border between Willow Creek and Adelaide. So it's the coolest. So the Willow Creek is thought of as like the coolest, not hippest,
Right.
but I mean it's probably the hippest and the coldest.
Yeah.
But ideal for Rhones. And Adelaide is one of the warmer but more Cabernet centric. So we're right on that border. And we kind of made the decision to do that. But the only other blenders planted on that property were Malbec and St. Macaire, and they hadn't yet produced a crop at that time.
Got it.
So, but the wine's incredibly well balanced.
Right.
And I imagine over time we'll begin, the wine quality from those blender varieties will have us exploring, blending options. But
And Jesse, what are you tasting?
I am going to need to revisit it, but I actually have a question kind of circling back to the vineyard. Is there a specific reason that you guys chose to move the, where you source the fruit from for this vintage?
I think it's really, there's some things that we can truly assess with, which is, like how dark is the wine, how much color is in the fruit, what, how big are the berries and things like that. I think, some things you can't measure, and one of them is like fruit expression. And a word I used a lot in my tastings with my teammates is persistency of fruit. So it's that, 5, 10, 20 seconds after you taste it, are you tasting kind of, leather and chocolate,
Right.
or are you tasting red berry and raspberry and blueberry? And so it's a persistency. So it's time, and it's the flavor quality that you're getting. And we're seeing that the fruit from Stairway was excelling in that, in that dimension in particular. I think there's also, people that are really into Cabernet, that you have these trends that, sort of swing back and forth, When I was at Joseph Phelps Vineyards in 1985, I looked up some of the Wine Spectator scores, and the Joseph Phelps Napa Valley Cab got like 92 points, and it was described as being wonderfully minty. Okay, so minty is a term that refers to sort of green or herbaceous character. If the word minty showed up in your Wine Spectator review today, you ain't getting no 90 points. So then Robert Parker came along, and in the 90s, it was, hang time and kind of overripe and pruny, and the wines were a little bit, they were amazing and really, sort of expressive, but they didn't over the top. They didn't age very well. They had really high alcohol. They were not food friendly and so forth. And I think that went for a couple of decades, honestly. But I think probably in the 2010s or whatever, we started to see this move back towards balance, towards wanting Cabernet to have a little bit of, my new buzzword, I don't use the word minty, but I use the word like conifer, so it,
What is conifer?
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Conifer is a fancy word for pine tree, right?
Okay.
But it is, kind of in that minty
you get that
herbal
on the
character,
nose,
you have to find positive words to describe that, and that's a true varietal character. Yeah.
When you were talking about all the berries earlier too, for whatever reason, I started thinking about like a fruit pie, the filling of a pie.
Yeah.
And then I start thinking of like a lullaberry pie that you have a lot around here, where
Yeah.
like you get that on the nose.
Yeah, the distinction between a blackberry and a lullaberry is very subtle, but a lullaberry is a little bit more bright
Okay.
than a blackberry.
But yeah,
and
that's
I
a
agree with you.
popular pie in these parts, a lullaberry pie.
I don't think I've ever had an
Well,
lullaberry
we'll make
party.
I
sure
don't
you
know
get
what an
one.
lullaberry
Well,
is.
all of you all live down here. I'm out of San Jose, so
You gotta stop in Watsonville on your way home. Yeah.
Do they look like blackberries?
Yeah, they look.
Oh,
You
okay.
wouldn't be able
They're
to tell
big.
differences
Okay.
from looking at them. They look exactly like a
We'll get you in a
blackberry.
lullaberry
Okay.
pie.
Or I think there's some pockets of lullaberry plantings up in Oregon as well.
Oh, okay. There you go.
To circle back to your question, Josh, after I taste it again, I feel like I'm tasting Steve's words. It's like he said, I smell it and I see it, and it's dense, but it's very soft. It's really nice on the palate. It goes down super smooth, and I feel like it's kind of scary, especially, I mean, if you're not sure exactly what like the oak brings to the table, like how Steve was saying, usually this is always 90 to 100% oak. You would think it's going to be super big, kind of in your face, and no, it's just really soft. It's nice, very fruit forward.
Yeah, this
I love
fruit
it.
has the capacity to, sort of integrate even that amount of new oak. I mean, it's probably pretty self-evident, but that, lighter red wines can't carry as much oak. You put 100% new oak on our Pinot Noir, and it would, it would be undrinkable, I think. But this wine, has the density, has the fruit character to where it really comes off, oaky is not the first
Right,
word
not at all.
no one's going to come out with that as their first descriptor for this wine. So, yeah.
well, thank you all for tasting with me. I think Wine Club is in for a treat
It's a
for
good,
this.
yeah, really good.
I agree. I
lineup
think it's a
and-
great selection, and we got a couple new wines, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to learn more about Wine Club, Jessica, where are they going?
Well, always our website, but our members already know so
Yeah.
much about. But Jesse and Casey, our wine club membership services team, they're super responsive with like web chat, email, phone. So
And now even text messaging. So
yeah, so it's almost
Text
just
me.
old school, like just reach out, whatever and
Yeah.
they want it, they'll answer. They're here, and it's awesome.
And another thing that I'm really excited about is San Jose has been doing a lot of events, a lot of
A ton of
food
events,
pairings and
yeah.
things like that. And now that Paso now at the flagship
Yeah.
tasting room, like this spot is beautiful. If you haven't been out here with the back tasting salon
Yeah.
and the patio, it's going to be really fun this summer for sure.
I know. Spring.
I'm
Spring's
excited
upon
for
us soon.
for the vines to start blooming, because it's going to be really pretty once everything's green again.
Yeah, I usually say somewhere between St. Patty's Day and April Fool's, so
Yeah.
it's coming.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then if you are tasting along or you come back to it once you get the wines, please leave any of your own tasting notes and your thoughts on it all in the comments. We'd love to come back and see it. See if you agree with Steve or Jesse or any of us or not. Or if you have a perfect pairing too, leave them down there too. But I have a small bit of wine to end this off with a cheers.
I have
Yeah.
some.
Well, thank you. This was much better than the
Cheers.
time that you made me mix Diet
Cheers,
Coke
Steve.
with 7 Ounce Cabernet on TikTok.
But did you give it Sprite? I'm just kidding.